You mentioned Jenna Ellis. She seems to be the one so far that people are saying is the most damaging to Rudy Giuliani. If you were advising him, what would you say is his path for the future here?
Embrace the truth. Ride the truth, no matter the consequences. And stand up to this and never give in. Now, I paid a heavy price for doing that and spent $2,000.
Right, I was going to say, even if that means jail time?
Yes, because the stakes are too high. And, you know, when you're in this business like I was as the governor of Illinois, when you've been as Rudy Giuliani has been, a former U.S. prosecutor himself, mayor of New York City, and a very successful mayor of New York City, and I would hope that the American people don't forget his service to our country after 9/11 because it was heroic. But when you sign up for those positions like I did, like he did, like President Trump, you have a higher duty, a higher responsibility than just to think about yourself or even your family, as hard as it is to say that. You have a duty to protect the Constitution. You swore in the Holy Bible to do so. And when these corrupt prosecutors are doing what they're doing, when they're weaponizing themselves and criminalizing things that are political and routine and really legal, and that's the operative phrase, legal, they're destroying our country. And so real leaders never give in to that. They stand up, and I would fully expect that Rudy Giuliani will do that. He'll be a real leader like he's always been. And, you know, my heart goes out to him and what he's going through. But I have great admiration for his fortitude, and I'm very confident he's not going to give in. He's going to fight back, as he has been.
Yeah, it seems even today he made a statement that he is going to continue on the path of truth. So we will see where that goes. Michael Cohen was testifying this week in Trump's civil fraud trial. How credible do you think he was?
Not credible at all. He's a big liar. He's a sleazy, cowardly scumbag. I was in prison with guys like that, white-collar wimps like that Michael Cohen. Can I say this? That guy deserves a good old-fashioned Chicago neighborhood playground ass-kicking. Okay? Wow. He's a sycophantic guy who holds on to the coattails of a guy who's going up like Donald Trump, probably was an ass kisser every step of the way, and then as soon as there was trouble, he does what he does and flips against the guy and lies against the guy that frankly made him. It's sickening, and yet it's common. It's not uncommon. Human nature being what it is, there aren't a lot of guys that have the backbone of Trump, or frankly me, and so I have nothing but contempt for him, and I wouldn't believe a word he says, that he's already been found to have lied, and he changes his story all the time. And when people change their story, I think that tells you they can't get the truth right because they're not telling the truth.
Right. Okay, in the last 24 hours, there has been a mass shooting in Lewiston, Maine. At least 18 are dead that they've confirmed as of today. It's prompted a manhunt and lockdowns there. When you were in office, you were an advocate of gun control. Has anything changed since you were in office, and how do you feel about what's going on right now?
Well, of course, our hearts go out to all the people who were killed by this maniac who did that, and their families and their loved ones, and we hope and pray that this guy's apprehended as soon as possible. I don't know what the latest news is on whether or not they caught him yet.
They haven't as of now.
Yeah, but so he's a real serious danger to wherever he may be. And of course, it's obvious that he needs to be brought to justice. You know, when I was a congressman representing a city district where crime is rampant in Chicago, the issue of gun control is very real to us here. And I have to say that the NRA was never a big fan of mine. In fact, one year they gave me an F- rating. I think I deserved a D, frankly, but they gave me an F-.
Okay.
So I support
a thing? F-? Wow.
Yeah, an F-. And so my politics was different back then because my priorities were different because of the district that I represented. I've learned a lot through the many years since I've been in politics about a lot of things, about life in different ways, but certainly the way I view politics today is a little bit different than it was back then. And the cynical aspect of it, the fake part of it, is a lot more profound to me. It's a lot more obvious to me than it was back then. Because what's unfortunate about the Democrat Party, my party, and you have to include me in this because I was doing it back then, although I really believed my heart was right. I felt like, and I still do, that as much as you're asking law-abiding citizens to make sacrifices, do you really need an AK-47? And I think there's some guns that are just so inherently dangerous that should not be legal, and I haven't changed my position on that. But I do think that when you live in a place like Chicago where crime is rampant now, we have a mayor and we have a Governor Pritzker and our Mayor Johnson, who have pushed through. Pritzker did it. Democrat Governor Pritzker, these no bail laws that are sending signals to the criminal element. It's very real and organized, the gangbangers, that there are little or no consequences. And they also know that the police are on the run because the Democratic leaders like Governor Pritzker and before him, Mayor Johnson, Mayor Lightfoot, don't have the backs of the police officers. The city of Chicago is facing a major, serious crime problem. Violent crime, muggings are up, carjackings are up, and the murder rate continues to soar. And so it's understandable that everyday citizens who follow the law want to protect themselves because the police can't protect them because they don't have the backs of the political leaders, nor are there enough police officers to deal with the gangbangers. In Chicago, gangbangers outnumber police officers 75-1. So if a person feels like his government can't protect him, which is the first duty of government, then I think it's very understandable and reasonable to understand and support them having the right to bear a weapon to protect themselves and their families. So on the concealed carry issue, for example, that I always opposed, I look at it very differently today. Then the other thing I would say to your listeners is there's so much baloney in politics. It's really maddening on both sides. But the Democrat side is every time there's a terrible shooting, they start calling for gun control laws and all the rest. And yet they don't do what is necessary in the process to actually pass those things.
Make it happen. Yeah.
And they don't want to pass those things because they'd much rather have that issue than actually make the communities and streets safer. And the biggest loser in that kind of fake politics by the Democratic Party is the black community, because it's in the black communities where crime and violent crime continues to be higher than any place else. And it's in the black communities where there's a real need for law enforcement and for police to protect them. And it's really upside down in so many ways. The Democrats claim to be the friend of the African-American community, when in so many ways they're the reason that conditions in too many of those neighborhoods continue to be difficult and strained and crime-ridden as well as poverty-ridden.
You brought up something before that I think I really want to touch on. So as someone who's not in politics, doesn't have this conversation with people like in a serious way, but is someone who watches these things happen continually in the news, these mass shootings, why is someone allowed at the age of 21 to buy a semi-automatic assault rifle? It makes no sense to me. I just am baffled by, there's a difference between the freedom to buy guns for whatever, for protection, for shooting, for, whatever it is. But like, why would anyone need a gun like that? Like, really explain that. I just don't get that.
No, and I haven't changed my position on that. I agree.
Yeah.
I think those should be banned. There's a gun called a 50 caliber sniper rifle that can shoot, has a range of up to 4 miles.
Right.
And it can knock through brick walls. That's available. That's actually
people
legal.
are saying they're buying this for hunting. I mean, how are they getting these guns? I just don't understand it. It doesn't seem like common sense.
Well, they're legal. And the NRA and the other organizations that protect the rights of the gun owners resist any kind of effort to even try to address that and make those illegal. Now, they would argue, and there's merit to what they say, they argue an argument that I always dismissed back then when I was getting those F-minuses from the NRA. But today I see that there's a lot more validity to it. They argue that it's a slippery slope, that if they give in on one of these type of weapons, then these proponents for that are going to keep going after more and more of them. I always felt that was a false argument, but in reality, they were right and I was wrong. They're right. And that's part of the difficulty and problem that happen in a democracy, because those same groups that are interested in going after the AK-47, which I do believe should be banned to this day, and I would urge law-abiding citizens who believe in gun rights, as it's understandable that they would, to understand that maybe they should make a few sacrifices that are common sense for the common good and the general welfare, but I understand their fears and their concerns. And the problem with that kind of view is that on the other side, there's certain things that the political left is interested in doing that is crazy. On the other hand, some of the things they're supporting I think are pretty good, and yet there's no compromise on that side either for the same fears that if you give in somewhere, the other side's going to try to do it. The problem we have in that dynamic is it's polarized politically. It's a hyper-partisan political dynamic, and the two sides are always fighting, and little or nothing can get done to help the people. And it's one of these reasons why Winston Churchill said democracy is the worst system ever devised by man, except for all the rest. I hope they got me on camera there. Churchill said that.